Joining me is the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Andrew Wallace, Liberal National MP. Andrew, thanks for your time. What's the mood like in your electorate? Is there a sense that the RBA will cut today, and will that be met with a fair bit of relief? Or do you have a lot of retirees who probably would benefit from the higher rates in terms of return on bank balances and so on?
Well, there are a lot of retirees in Fisher and across the Sunshine Coast, Kieran, so they will actually suffer from an interest rate reduction, but there's also a lot of homeowners and particularly a lot of businesses. And the cash rate at the moment is 4.35%, but the average business owner is obviously paying a lot more than that. But at the end of the day, Australian homeowners, the average Australian homeowner over the last 2 years has paid an extra $50,000 in interest under this Labor government, and that's after tax. There's not too many families who can afford an extra $50,000 on top of their interest payments that they were making prior to the last election, but that's where homeowners have found themselves. And that's on top of rising costs of electricity up by 32%, gas up by 34%. Insurance is up by 18%. You know, I was looking through some applications for some community grants just yesterday, and the most popular request for many community groups across my electorate was for the costs of insurance. Insurance. So many community groups.
Let me ask you about that in a moment. We can talk about the insurance question because there was something out of Andrew Clennell's interview with Peter Dutton at the weekend where it certainly erupted, that story. But just on rates before we move on to insurance, do you think the RBA is within its, is well within its rights to? I know it's obviously the government will welcome it, but this is a fair call, isn't it, to cut rates today?
Well, Kieran, look, far be it from me to give advice to the RBA. The RBA is independent from political persuasion, political interests. The whole idea of having an independent RBA is to take that decision away from politicians. What I can tell you is that there are a lot of people in my electorate who will be looking forward to a rate cut, but after 12 interest rate rises under this government, it will be too little too late.
Yeah, well, that's certainly going to be the argument from the coalition. There is a sense, though, Andrew, that if the government can say to the electorate, look, we've got through the worst of it, like many other nations around the world, we've copped that international sort of inflationary pulse through our economy, and now things are going to improve. That's quite a potent political message, isn't it?
Well, Kieran, time will tell. I think ultimately people will vote according with their back pocket. I've been saying that for a couple of years now. The cost of living crisis that this country has endured has been self-inflicted by the Labor government because of its financial and fiscal policies. People are hurting, and I can tell you what, you asked me about how people are feeling in Fisher. It's fair to say that it's one of anger. They've had enough. They've turned off Anthony Albanese. He promised them that life would be easier under him. He promised them cheaper mortgages. He promised them cheaper energy. And look where we are today.
On the issue of insurance, the Insurance Council kicked up a stink off the back of the comments made by the opposition leader yesterday. But you're right. There'd be a lot of our viewers, a lot of people around the nation who'd be welcoming a bit of pushback here because we've seen, all of us, the spike in premiums.
Absolutely. And Peter Dutton is absolutely right to point it out. It doesn't matter whether it's for your car, whether it's for your home, that the cost of insurance has gone through the roof. And as I was talking about before, so many community groups, in fact, the vast majority of community groups that applied for grants just recently, I was looking through them yesterday, they were applying for grants just to pay their insurance so they can keep their door open to provide the sort of community service that they do. That's the first time I've seen that in 9 years. I've never seen that before. I don't think I've ever seen it before where a community group applied for insurance and it was the number one reason as to why they needed help.
Yep, indeed. It's one of the areas people are struggling. Andrew, a big day. Thank you for talking to us as always. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Kieran.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.